Alright, I think you can see this better. This is Algebra 2, Lesson 27. We're going to talk about a ratio. If you open your books and follow along, you're going to see what a ratio is. A ratio is simply, can be written in fraction form, 3/4. Or we could say it's a 3 to 4, or 3/4. Well, whenever you write algebraic expression that way, oops, make this A. We can say A to B, or if we do A squared x over 4y. What we do is we call these rational expressions. And we've been adding rational expressions by using the least common multiple, or we better know as the least common denominator. When one of the denominators has a factor that is a sum, then the sum is one of the factors of the least common multiple. So let's do an example. Let's see, 4 over x plus 6 over x plus y. A. Basically, we have a fraction here. Two fractions that we're trying to add. And right now I'm going to stop and I'm going to give you the code for this lesson is code 845, and you need to put it on the top of lesson 25. The number 845 on the top of lesson 25. Back to this problem. Okay, you've got two fractions. How do you add them? You have to have a common denominator. Just like if I had 1/3 plus 1/2, I can't add these until I have a common denominator. How do you get the common denominator? You factor each one of these. And the book doesn't really show you, but I'm going to show you. You write it out and you factor x. And this goes, whenever you have a plus or minus, it has to stick together. So you have x plus a. Okay? Now what you do is you have to put them in their own column. I didn't do a very good job. Is there any other x's in here? If there are not, you take that x out. Times x plus a. That is your new least common denominator. Okay, so we'll do one a little more complicated in a minute and it'll make more sense. So, but basically, you're going to do x times x plus a plus x times x plus a. This one's easy to see. If you look at these two, if you take the least common multiple and you divide by your original denominator, okay, these two cross out. What do you have left? X plus a. So that's what you're going to multiply this by. And do you see that that's what we did to the denominator? So we do it at the top, which is 4 times x plus a. And then over here, we can do the same thing, x times x plus a, and put it over the original denominator. These two are exactly the same, so basically you're multiplying this by x over x. Remember, it's just like anything divided by itself is 1, so therefore we're just renaming it by multiplying it by 1. So what you multiply the denominator by, you must multiply the numerator, even if it's an algebraic expression like this one. It's not any different than numbers. It's just a little more difficult. It just looks complicated. That's all. It just looks. It's not. So then you have 6 times x. Here you have to distribute. So this becomes 4x plus 4a plus 6x. And you can put it all over one denominator because that's what you do. Once you get a common denominator, don't you? You can combine the numerators. That's what I did. Do I have any like terms? I do. I have a 4x and a 6x. So this simply becomes 10x plus 4a all over x times x plus a. And that's all that is. So you need to write down what a rational expression is. Something you might see on the test or a quiz. It's really important that you understand what that means. Basically, it's a ratio or a fraction when we add algebraic terms with variables and with variables in it. That's all it is. So that was example 27.1. So let's look at example 27.2. The hard part is getting the least common multiple, and it's really not that difficult. It's fairly simple. You just got to understand and know what you're doing. So let's look at this one. X plus 2. Remember, when you have a term with a division bar, they're kind of married together until you distribute it out. Isn't this the same as 6 over 1? So what are your common denominators? Let's look at them. X plus 4, 1, and we're really not going to write 1 down because it's just 1. So here you have, you can't factor this. Here it's just 1. Here is x squared. You do it in exponent power. So we're not going to factor x times x because it's the same base. We'll leave it x squared. So then you break the columns. And you say I take a 1 out, but anything times 1 is itself. X plus 4 times x squared. That is your new least common denominator. X plus 4 times x squared. You look at this. What did I need to multiply to get that? An x squared. So that's what I'm going to multiply. X squared times your numerator plus x plus 4 times x squared. And you're going to do 6 times all of that, x squared times x plus 4, right? Because you had 1 in the denominator. Because if you take this and divide it by the original denominator, which is 1, you get that. And then here you've got x plus 4 times x squared. And you simply multiply what? X plus 4. So you get 2 times x plus 4. And erase the least common multiple. And then you simply have to use your rules for polynomials and distributing. So this becomes x cubed plus 2x squared. It's all over. You can have it all for one denominator. Yeah, so you have x plus 4 times x squared. Plus, I'm going to combine this as 6x squared together times that becomes 6x cubed plus 24x squared plus, and I'm just using my distribution rules, 2x plus 8. Now you're going to combine any like terms. These two are like terms, so you get, that's an implied coefficient of 1, 7x cubed plus 26x squared plus 2x plus 8 all over x plus 4 times x squared. Or you could distribute this denominator or simply leave it that way. Alright, so let's do another one with the negative sign. So it's not any different, you just subtract. It's just how do you add and subtract fractions? You have to have a common denominator first, and then you can put all the numerators together. So the hard part here, it's not doing it, it's getting a common denominator. So let's look at this one, x squared plus 4x plus 3 minus 1 over x times x plus 1. Well, you have to factor this first. So like we said, we're going to put it down here. And x times x plus 1. Well, we have an x. They've already factored this one out for us. This becomes, remember how to factor, we did that in one of our last lessons. It's x plus 3 and 1. So I'm going to line up my x plus 1 here times my x plus 3. And I'm going to make columns. We call these bases because they're in parentheses. We're going to look at it as a base, like a y squared, y cubed, base is y. Okay? I only have 1, so I take it out here. Here they're the same, but they're both the same power, so I only need to take out 1 because it's the same thing. Here I have just that one, so I have to take that. So your denominator is all these three multiplied together. So I'm going to put it all under 1. Actually, I'm not, because I want you to see. Okay? So what do I have to multiply this one by to get this? Well, here it is factored out. You just multiply by x. So I'll multiply my numerator by x, because that's what I multiply my denominator by. Okay? Here, I have to multiply by an x plus 3. So I have to multiply the top by that. So this is easy. You get x squared plus 2x plus x plus 3, because it's just 1 times that, so you get the same thing. Now combine like terms. So I get x squared plus 3x plus 3 all over x times x plus 1 times x plus 3. And then if you want, you can multiply them together or simply leave it as that. And that's your answer. Okay? That's all it is. The hardest part is getting the least common denominator. Once you get the least common denominator, you simply add the tops and distribute. You remember, what you multiply the denominator by, you also must multiply the numerator by, because x over x, doesn't matter what it is, equals 1. The same thing divided by itself is 1. And we're just renaming this, it's a whole fraction. It's just a complicated fraction, but it's basically one fraction. And if you can remember that, then it's just long. It's a long process, but it's not hard. All right, we'll do more of these in class. That is it for this lesson.